All right, all right, all right, all right. I'm back in action, just like Brendan Fraser in that shit movie. And we got a little bit of season two patch notes. I think I was originally gonna do a video on like the season 1.5 patch notes, and I just ended up not doing it. For me, I think it was like a case where I didn't feel like they were honestly that important, nor did I feel like they shifted the game up enough to make it like super interesting. So I feel like finally this. I think season one as a whole kind of had a very similar meta. It did take a little bit to figure out kind of what people liked, and I don't think this game has like a super serious specific meta for every rank or anything. I still think there's a lot of viable stuff, but I'm just saying I think a lot of over time people sort of picked up on what on average was the best in certain situations and everything. But season two, I've already looked at these notes, but I'm gonna go through them and just kind of break them down, like what I think about it. But I think season one kind of uh, like I think the metagame sort of started to get stale. So I think season two, I'm kind of looking forward at least to there being. I think there's going to be a significant shift. Uh, not only balance wise but meta wise, and I'm very curious to see where it goes because I think there's going to be a lot of crazy shit. Now, I think there is some stuff in here that's like very hard power creep, and I'm a little worried about it. But there's quite a bit of stuff in here that I think is very interesting, and we'll have to see how it goes. But we'll start out with the first change. So we got Captain America, and they're reducing his health by 25. And his shield health by 50. But the caveat is he is getting a team up with Bucky, so he's actually going to get 100 health from the team up. So he's going to have 75 more HP than he did before. And he's also going to which is interesting because they haven't done this before, but they're going to give him a 5% damage boost. Now, damage boost with the season bonus thing has only been given to DPS, but we're going to have a tank character that is actually getting a damage boost, which is interesting. So that might help him actually finish targets off a little bit quicker, maybe. I know it's not a major buff in terms of like him being able to kill stuff, but I think he is going to be actually a little better in terms of sustain, even though he might have a little less health on his shield. Just having extra 75 health, I don't think is going to hurt. For him, especially as a character that's very mobile, can kind of get away. He's going to be even harder to kill, which is kind of what he's good at the moment. The only issue for him is being able to kill through healing. He basically can't do that at the moment. I mean, that's like his biggest problem. If you're trying to attack a player and even one person is healing them, he just can't kill them. I mean, it could be a mantis putting a leaf on somebody and you literally do damage about as fast as she heals. It's kind of the same problem that Winston used to have in Overwatch, like when Mercy used to heal more. You legitimately could not kill somebody, or Winston could not kill a target that was being healed by Mercy. He just didn't do enough damage to even, cause their health to tick down. So yeah, I think it's interesting. Cap's in a weird spot. I think he's decent for sure. I think he has some specific situations where he's good. I don't think he's good into everything though, and I don't think he's good into specific comps, and I don't think he's good in certain comps. But I think there's situations where he can work. But I think he's one of these characters that you're kind of, if you're gonna have someone play him, you kind of want somebody that's a specialist at playing him that kind of knows how to maneuver in a way to sort of get picks, and isn't gonna tunnel vision people that are getting pocketed. But I actually don't mind these changes, and we'll have to see what Cap can do. Next up, we got Doctor Strange. So they're reducing his offensive capability a little bit. So his daggers have knocked projectile damage from 18 to 16. Now I'm trying to remember if it's 4 or 5 projectiles. It's multiple projectiles, so it's going to affect the damage a little bit. He's going to lose, I think, 8 to 10 damage every time he hits a target, and that will add up. Especially on larger targets, but this is something that is going to be, I think, a little noticeable, as he's a character that I think can struggle to get punched through health pools sometimes if you don't, if you're not able to use either Gamma or use your E to sort of finish off a target once they get lower. So they're also reducing his conversion ratio, so I'm assuming that means he's going to build energy slower as well. So on top of the damage being slightly reduced, he's going to build energy slower, which means it's going to be tougher to get to 100 energy. So that means he's not going to be able to use his E as often either. So these are I think it's significant, especially considering that he's also losing his Gamma team up. So he's not going to have access to that anymore, and I think he's going to take these nerfs to his damage. On top of the fact, I mean, I guess the one thing they're giving him in return is he is going to get 100 HP, since he has a team up with Witch now. So he'll be at 700. But it's one of these cases where it's like I'm kind of feeling like Strange is going to become more of a shield bot than anything if you do play him. Um, he's the type of character where, like, I feel like in some situations he just simply can't finish targets off. Uh, Trying to play him against like a triple support composition can be miserable at times because he just simply can't do enough damage. Um, Now I think for him he doesn't have as big of problems as Cap because obviously he has his E. He obviously has an ultimate that can be very good when used well, and you can combo into a ton of different things with it. So I think Strange is not going to be dead. I don't think. I see people saying that this is going to completely kill the character. I don't think the character will be dead simply because one, he's going to get some HP, and I think two, I think the Scarlet Witch team up might actually be quite good. But I think Strange, the days of Strange being like definitively like the number 1 or 2 tank, I think are probably over. Um, I mean, this character, I mean, Strange has been good since the beta of this game. He's been very good. He's been one of the best tanks basically the whole time. He'll still have his portal, which is like one of the best abilities in the game, just because it's so unique and there isn't another character has anything quite like it. It gives you extra fights. Um, so I think Strange will still be solid to good, but I don't think he's going to be like, especially at higher tiers, like hard meta anymore. But yeah. So moving on to Hulk, they're going to increase his base movement speed from 600 to 650. This is a change that we're going to see on some other. On I think Thor is also going to get this buff. Um, so I think just trying to speed him up a little bit. It makes sense on a character that's a melee character as well, since they have to go in to deal damage. They can't just stand and poke like a lot of other characters can. So they put themselves naturally in harm's way because they're a melee character. So they're giving him this movement speed. They're also reducing his cooldown time on his guard, which I believe is his bubble. So it's going to go from 12 seconds to 10. That's going to help him stay alive better as well. And then obviously the minimum charge time for the leap has been reduced as well from 0.7 to 0.5. So he's going to be able to jump more often, which is going to help him stay alive as well. So basically giving him some buffs to allow him to sort of not explode as much. I think a big problem with Hulk at the moment is I feel like, at least with the way the game is currently, it's tough to initiate with him without basically feeding. Like you have to you kind of need like a bubble from Mag, or you need some sort of ability to give you a window to attack, because if you're jumping in with basically nothing, and even if you're just jumping in with your cooldowns, I often don't think it's like enough to get much done, because like the issue with Hulk is he has the same problem that Cap has, where sometimes it just you can't kill shit, and like you have to really commit as Hulk to kill targets. And the issue is if you don't have people following up on that, it's like very difficult to actually kill somebody without just feeding yourself, because it takes so long to kill targets that it's very easy to overcommit trying to kill somebody, and you end up getting knocked out of Hulk form and dying. Um, Obviously I think it's a little easier when you have your ult. At least you can kind of, use that as a get out of jail card, but you don't have that in every situation. So I like these buffs for Hulk, and on top of the fact that his team up, we'll get to it later, but Namor got added to his team up. I think Hulk actually, it's unfortunate because I think Hulk is actually going to be pretty solid in this patch, but I think at least in terms of rank, I think he's going to get banned a lot, and it's not necessarily his fault. It's going to be kind of the same reason he was banned originally is because of Iron Man and Strange being really strong with the team up. Now it's going to be the case where because, and we'll get to this, but Iron Man and Namor, I think those two DPS are going to be meta with Gamma. So I think Hulk unfortunately is going to get banned a lot because of it, and it's unfortunate because I think the character might actually be in a solid state, but he's going to get punished by the sins of his team up, not really because of him being the problem. It's more of the team up being a problem. Um, but yeah, that's kind of an issue with team ups in a way. I feel like is that if the team up is too good, you ban the anchor, and there's some cases where the anchor isn't necessarily that amazing. It's just like, you know, I don't know. It's weird, but it'd be kind of interesting if you could ban one of the, like, I know they would never do this, but if you could ban one of the other characters in the team up, and then it's like you wouldn't be able to play the team up. Like, for example, if you banned Iron Man, you would not be able to get Gamma on Namor, because you banned one of the characters in the team up. I don't know. I don't think that would probably ever work, but it would be interesting because then you'd actually be banning the character you think's the problem, not necessarily banning the character that is the anchor. And at that point, we could get rid of seasonal bonuses and all that crap too. But whatever, that's a different thing. So we got Magneto getting a slight energy cost increase for his ult. I think that's fair. His ult is very good. It's the type of ultimate that, depending on what your composition is, there's often really not a good way to deal with it. Especially if he's able to charge it up and drop it on a support or somebody. Even if your support's ulting, if he can fully charge it up and drop it on them, they still die. If you don't have like a shield to try and block it with, or some way to sort of mitigate it, or if you don't have like an ultimate that you can fire heavily into it really quickly to try and pop it. Like I know Punisher ult is actually good at popping his meteor as long as he doesn't able to fire it at you before you blow it up, right? It's kind of a game of chicken with Magneto and Punisher, but yeah, I think this is pretty fair. Mag is still very good though, generally speaking. I think he's sort of the jack of all trades tank. He does everything well to some extent. I don't think he has like a major weakness in his kit. And he's going to get a team up with Emma Frost that I think is going to make Magneto one of the best tanks in the game, if not the best tank now, potentially. But we'll have to see. Next up, Penny, a character that I think is interesting because she's the type of character that I think is very good at lower ranks, not very good at high rank. So it's interesting to see her get buffed. Cyber Web Cluster now has a chance to crit. And her reduced movement speed penalty while firing it is from 40% to 20%. So that's her primary attack. So now you can actually get headshots with it, which should allow her to do more damage, which is nice, because I think she does have an issue with being one of the lower damage tanks at the moment. That's kind of like her, Captain America, Hulk. I'm trying to think if there's another character. I mean, Venom, I guess, sort of, but Venom can at least get crits with his tendrils. But so she's going to be able to crit. She's also going to have less of a penalty while firing, which is nice, which allows her to strafe a little more, and she's going to get 100 health. So I think this is just going to make her even better at lower ranks. I don't know if people want that necessarily, but I don't know if it's a case where I don't think she'll be meta in pro play by any stretch, because I think very good players are her mines are basically useless against them. They just avoid them. But I think this is fine ultimately. Like, yeah, I think she's going to be harder to kill now. But I think it actually increases her skill ceiling a little bit, instead of it just being like, oh, I just shoot people's body. I just aim for the body with her and sort of just sit by my mine patch. I think this does give her a little more freedom to play a little more out, especially with having a little more health and being able to strafe more while shooting and stuff. I think that does actually raise her skill ceiling a little bit, which I think is good. So I'm fine with this. Thing, his embattled leap damage reduction effect for himself and his teammates from 30% to 25%. I think this is fine. I don't think it was like too good, but I can understand why they changed it simply because he does have 2 charges of it. So this wouldn't be the like recommended way to play him necessarily, but you could do it in the sort of way where you sort of you walk in, you start attacking stuff, you jump backwards, give yourself damage boost, then you run back in, slam in, and then you jump back and give damage boost again, and it's like you have damage reduction, or not damage boost, sorry, damage reduction. You have it, and then like the 2 players you gave it to also have it for a period of time. Um, but I don't know. I don't think this is some significant nerf or anything. It's only 5%. I don't think that's going to make a extreme difference. There might be some small breakpoint things that might matter a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be anything that's going to like knock this character out or anything. I think he's still probably going to be a top 5 tank, at least in the upcoming patch. I think he'll still be good. I'm not too worried. So Thor is going to receive 75 base health, and his movement speed is going to be increased. Now, there's a caveat. He's going to lose his 100 health bonus he gets from the bonus health from the seasonal boost. I don't know why I'm blanking on the name of it. So he has 625 right now. He's going to have 600, so he's actually going to lose health. And I really don't think this character needed to lose any health because he currently doesn't really have any way to mitigate damage in any form. And I think he has some mobility, but it's not like super high mobility. It's not the type of mobility like a character like Venom or somebody who can basically go from on screen to off screen in like a second or two. Like Thor can move behind corners and he can dash away, but he still has to spend some time charging that up to do that. I would argue he's probably the easiest tank to kill at the moment, so even though they increase his movement speed, I think losing that 25 health is a bigger nerf. And I don't think Thor is a character that was like needed to be nerfed. If anything, I would have probably looked to at least give him that health back and maybe even given him 25 health instead of taking 25 away. I don't think he's necessarily terrible, but I think he's definitely like one of the hardest tanks to play. I think him and Hulk for sure. Maybe Thor requires a little more mechanical skill, but I think he's kind of difficult for a melee character. I think because he's the easiest tank to kill, I would say. So I don't know if I really love the health reduction for him, but I'm kind of worried he might end up, especially with like a character like Penny getting buffed. Hulk should be a little better. Cap should be a little better, and I think Venom is in a decent spot. Like, I think Emma's gonna be actually pretty good as well. I think there's a world where Thor could probably fall to like the very bottom of the tank roster, unfortunately, especially because again his team ups are being taken away as well. So yeah, not great. Black Widow, she's getting this weird thing where essentially she's going to be able to shoot after releasing the second kick of Edge Dancer and after using electroplasma explosives. So if she kicks twice with her Edge Dancer, you should be able to fire immediately after. I don't know if that was like a bug or something where she like had a delay, or when she'd use her ult, she couldn't fire immediately after for a period. I guess this is more of a bug fix. I don't think this is going to make any drastic difference for 99% of players, but whatever. Hawkeye reduces the slow effect while charging the bow from 30 to 20. Increase both instances of damage for hypersonic arrow from 50 to 55. So it's going to increase the damage, I think, from 100 to 110. So it's not crazy or anything, but it's a little more damage. That can make a difference sometimes. At 10 damage, especially with the way Hawkeye works, where he has to charge his bow up by staying on target, it can make a difference occasionally with a breakpoint. this will be nice. Just allow him to move a little faster. I'm going to make his ult significantly cheaper as well, easier to get. So he should be able to have it more often, and they're going to improve the bow draw speed well in the ult from 1.35 times to 1.5. I'm pretty sure this has been buffed like twice. I thought it was like, was it 1.2 or 1.15 before or something? So they buffed Hawkeye again. I remember the last patch, I was really worried about Hawkeye being too good. He's the type of character where I feel like is very easy to overbuff, especially because of how he works with his ability to be able to one-shot. And this is the type of character that you want to be very careful with. I mean, Black Widow is kind of the same way, where I don't think you want him to be able to one-shot super consistently, because I just think it feels bad to play against. So in this case, like, I don't think any of this will make him insane. I think he's okay at the moment. I don't think he's too strong. I don't think he's like terrible or anything, but he does require some mechanical input, so I think that's why you don't see him at like lower ranks much. But I don't think any of these buffs are so wild that I think he's going to be insane or anything. But I think they're just trying to make him feel better to play, especially for the people that are already decent at him. I guess it seems like what they're going for, but yeah, I don't think he's going to be some like crazy meta pick or anything. But yeah, I'm not inherently against it. It's just you have to be careful because of how he works. I mean, you guys remember how good he was originally in Season 0. I don't think anybody wants that again. So Hela increasing cooldown time for the Astral Flock ability from 12 to 6 or 12 to 15. This is good. Bird is really, really nice to have on a character like Hela, who whenever you get in trouble, you can basically get out, or have a way to get to your healers. For a character that's already so good at dueling, can do so much damage with headshots, and basically has no fall off after the last patch where they, for whatever reason, gave her that buff. That was like really not necessary at all. I don't mind this nerf. I think it's a good nerf, actually. Increased spell field damage of Piercing Knight. So, this shoots out, is it 4 projectiles? Shoots out, I think, 4 projectiles. So, that would make its damage go up from 120 to 140. And it can obviously, I think, hit multiple targets if they're really clumped. It's just going to be a little more damage from the right click. I think this is good, actually, because to me it was like her left click was just better inherently, like, because of how much damage it could do. Like, you would be able to fire like 3 shots before the right click would hit the target and go off. So it was like essentially like even like, unless you were basically missing every shot, just shooting people with the left click had much better DPS and was much more consistent because it hit scan. So they're just trying to make her right click more enticing, I suppose, although I feel like it's something where they should probably, again, I don't think she should be able to snipe people the way she does right now, because it's kind of taken away from like, it's weird that she is arguably better at sniping characters than like Hawkeye and Black Widow are, who are supposed to be the sniper type characters. It's supposed to be the Widow and the Hanzo, but Hela is like this weird like monster who's like has elements of both those characters sort of mixed in to her kit. So yeah, decreased cooltime for Soul Drainer, which is her stun, from 12 to 10 seconds. I don't know if that needed to be buffed. I think her stun's pretty solid already. I don't know if it needed to be a shorter cooldown. That's probably not necessary, but I suppose I'll take this. I think this is probably a net. I don't really think she's going to be any worse than she was before. I think you just have to play her differently. I think this, the only thing this really nerfs, in my opinion, is maybe the flanker play style, because you don't have Flock as often. So if you like use it to like avoid something and then you try to flank, or so, I don't know. Actually, you know what? I don't think this would even affect the flanker play style that much, because your E is actually on a shorter cooldown. I don't know. I don't think this is really going to make Hela much worse. Yeah, I think she'll still be very good. And she'll probably still be the overall best hit scan in the game, I think. I don't think that's going to change anything. So, a little disappointing, I guess, but I mean, at least she got nerfed. I mean, they could have buffed her again, I suppose. Human Torch. Reduce attack interval for fire cluster from zero point 0.6 to zero point 0.5. Launch timing of the primary attack projectile has been advanced. So what does that mean? That means that they sped it up further? It doesn't say by how much, but attack interval means, I'm assuming it just means he can shoot more often. That's just in buffing his rate of fire. Increase the cooldown for Flaming Meteor from 12 to 15 seconds, but as a new effect. So Flaming Meteor is his ability where he dives in basically on a target and slams them or whatever. So he gets 75 bonus health, which will start to fall off 3 seconds later at a rate of 30 per second. So it'll disappear in 2.5 seconds after it falls off. So that's 5.5 seconds after you land. I think this is actually good because that's going to keep, like, a big problem Torch has right now is if he does this move, he just gets blown up. Like, if he tries, it's, like, only worth it if you can guarantee you're going to kill the person you slam on. Whereas this might allow him to use it more aggressively just to try and, like, draw attention or, like, you know, try and get a target weak. You know, or use it within a combo instead of just using it as like a move to get final hits. He could use it as something inside of a combo where he hits a target, slams on it, and then hits it again and kills it. Yeah, I don't think this is bad at all, actually. But it's going to have a longer cooldown, so you obviously can't use it as often. Yeah, I think that's fine. I think it makes sense. Torch is kind of in a weird spot with Hela being as good as she is, and I feel like he also kind of just gets hard shut down by, like, Punisher Rocket combo. He doesn't really have a lot of ways to deal with that. And I know they don't want to make him fly too fast. I think they're also trying to keep console in mind and realize that they don't want flyers to be crazy quick in that game. Because if you guys... I mean, I played console Overwatch back in the day, and Pharah was insane on console Overwatch because most people just could not hit her with how she could move. Especially if the Pharah player, you know, was using her abilities well and you know, able to sort of stay... in a position where she wouldn't take a shitload of damage. So I think this is fine. I don't mind it. Iron Man. These are some interesting buffs. Iron Man seeing improvements to his mid-range combat effectiveness. Keep in mind, they buffed Iron Man in the Season 1.5 patch. So... And I don't think Iron Man is really bad at the moment. Maybe at very high levels he's countered by hit scans, but I think for normal players, Iron Man is still very viable at the moment, even without Gamma. I think if you can play him right, and you play him into the right composition, I think he can still be quite effective unless your Iron Man just flies in and feeds, but I don't think he's, like, bad currently. He's probably, like, high B tier, low A tier. But he's getting buffs, and these are some big ones, because slightly reduce Iron Man's hitbox size. And when they say slightly reduce, we don't know exactly how much smaller this is, but, you know, this, I mean, it could be something where, like, a good Iron Man can be hard to hit, because if he uses his movement well, like, he can move very erratically. So if you make him even harder to hit, that is interesting. I'm not fully against this, but this is going to be potentially a huge problem, especially considering Namor got put inside of Gamma. So he gains 100 bonus health when activating either Armor Overdrive or Gamma Overdrive, which is his beam, or his, well, it's not his beam, but it's the thing that powers up his beam, essentially, right? It's the separate cooldown. Gives him 100 bonus health that will start to fall off 5 seconds later. So it's not, like, quick. It's like 5... You can kill, like, 2 people in 5 seconds with Gamma if you have decent aim. It does that much damage. So it's, like, at a rate of 30 per second. So he's going to have bonus health for... I think that's going to end up being 8.33 seconds after he pops that ability. Keep in mind that obviously the cooldown is ticking down on the ability during that time, so he'll have it again. I don't think he needed this, to be honest. I don't think he needed bonus health, especially with this buff already probably making him a little harder to kill. He's going to be probably pretty good, even without Gamma. He's going to be strong. With Gamma, like, on top of the fact he's going to be getting bonus health and smaller hitbox size, like, this character might actually be like as strong as he was originally. You guys remember how strong he was in Season 0, where he was like one of the best DPS, probably like the third or fourth best DPS in the game because of how strong Gamma was. Or was that Season 1? Everything's blending together. Whatever. The meta where he was really strong, right, with Gamma, like extremely strong. He might be as strong as he was then, potentially. Or even, maybe even stronger. I don't think this was really necessary. This is very questionable. And this is one of the reasons why I think we're going to see Hulk getting banned a shitload. Because I think people are not going to want to play against the Gamma version of this. He might already be good, like pretty good. He might already be like a mid to high A tier DPS without Gamma. So yeah. Iron Fist. So reduce the max bonus health gained from Harmony Recovery from 150 to 100, but slow the fall off rate of that health from 25 per second to 15. So essentially he's gonna have less max health, but he's going to lose his health not as quickly. So this is gonna hurt initially, but there's gonna be a short period of time where he's actually gonna be more durable. So it's kind of just moving stuff around. It's just making him a little less tanky for a DPS. Lower fixed damage from 10 to 9. But increase the percentage damage of the enemy's max health per strike from 1.7 to 2.1. So I saw a breakdown of this. Essentially what this is going to do is this isn't going to affect his damage against DPS, but this is actually going to make him better against tanks because of the max health per strike. And then they're going to reduce the cooldown by 2 seconds for his kick. So that's going to be something he can use offensively, but also defensively to sort of get out. I don't mind this. I think this is a net buff. He's going to be better against tanks. He's going to be able to get out. Maybe a little less health, but I think being able to do the kick, being a little better against tanks, I think it's overall a slight buff for Iron Fist, which I think is okay. He's kind of in a weird state at the moment where he's decent against tanks, but not anywhere as good as Wolverine is, and he's especially not good against like supports, and he's not that amazing in duels. I mean, he can be good, but it depends on like the cooldown usage, and it's more of a case where I think he's good in duels, but he's not good in situations where, and I've said this before with other characters, if there's healing going on, he just can't punch through a lot of healing stuff because he doesn't do enough damage to kill people through healing or be able to do anything like that, whereas some other characters genuinely can do that. Mr. Fantastic. A character that I already think is actually pretty decent. I don't think he's like OP or anything, but I actually think he's in a solid state. So let's see what they gave him. Increase base health by 25, so I'll just make him tankier. Boost the damage of Stretch Punch. So that's going to be 5 more damage for every time you Stretch Punch somebody. It's going to be an extra 5 damage for the Inflated Punch. So 75 to 80, so it's just more damage for him. Enemies within range now, so when he does Flexible Elongation, enemies within range now suffer a 35% slow, and they also reduce the cooldown by 2 seconds, so depending on how long this lasts, this could be crazy. Like, if this is like for like 2 seconds, you could blow somebody up with the slow effect, because they're just not going to be able to get away from you. If you like pull somebody in, and then like target them as a team, they just die. This could be like really strong depending on what they do. If this is like a multi-second stun, Fantastic could be meta. I'm not kidding. If it's a really short stun, it'll still be nice to have, and I think it'll help him like kill people and get picks. But yeah, reduce the elasticity gained from elastic strength from 30 to 20, while the elasticity provided by Stretch Punch is increased from 5 to 8. If you're entering the inflated state, the bonus health provided his health has been reduced. So they reduced that, but gave him 25, so slightly less health, but yeah. So Stretch Punch, they've increased it by 3. So I think these are supposed to sort of counteract each other. I think he's going to get less. He's getting less from his passive, but I think you're going to get rewarded more for hitting multiple targets and stuff. So I think it's kind of trying to increase the skill ceiling a little bit on him, because a lot of people don't realize it's Fantastic. You can hit multiple people. I think a lot of people they will only attack one person, but if you attack and then drag your arms, you can hit multiple people, which is why it's going to be kind of nice to have these, even though it's only 5 and 5. If you're hitting multiple people, that adds up pretty quickly. But Mr. Fantastic uses Brainiac Bounce. He immediately gains bonus health equal to that of gained when entering inflated state. So people were saying that, oh, you need to go into inflated state to use this. You don't. I saw people saying, oh, it's like, well, I have to be inflated to use my alt. No. I think if you just use the alt, you're going to get the bonus health that you'd have in the inflated mode, which is going to make him very hard to kill when he's alting, which is nice. It's also going to allow you to use his ult as like a get out of jail card. So if you overextend or do something dumb, you might be able to use his ult sort of like a Winston ult, where you can play more aggressively, and then when you get in trouble, you just use Brainiac Bounce to sort of get out or kind of, redirect who you're attacking. So I think this will actually make Mr. Fantastic probably pretty good at lower tiers, especially. I don't know if he's going to be like S tier or anything, but I think this probably might firmly push him up to A tier and make him a pretty good character. I still think we're going to see him in pro play, but I think we might see him quite a bit more in ranked in general. So yeah, I think that's kind of interesting. We'll see though. Moon Knight. Now this is going to be interesting. This is probably the change that I think is going to negatively affect low ranks the most. If I had to pick a change, like a hero that got changed throughout the entire patch, this is the character to me that is the king of smashing people who have no idea what is going on most of the time. So essentially they're increasing his Crescent Dart projectile speed, which is his regular attack, making it more consistent, basically making it so it's the same speed as Storm's projectiles, which is going to make him much more consistent at dealing damage in terms of left clicks, instead of his playstyle where he was very reliant on his Onks to kind of do damage. And he was actually kind of difficult to hit left clicks with, I feel like, especially at on range targets, especially if they were moving quite a bit. Or on any target that basically has movement abilities, it was kind of difficult to consistently land shots. I know people make fun of him because of the Onk, and I get that playstyle is very difficult to do, fire into a target that's sitting it still. But, yeah. Moonblade effect. Gain 25 bonus health with every enemy hit, up to a max of 100. 3 seconds after the bonus health stops increasing, it will start to fall off at 20 per second. So, yeah, so basically, you get 100 bonus health, and then it's going to fall off at 20 per second. So I think that means it's going to take 8 seconds, potentially, for it to fully, if you get 100, to fully fall off. Now, you have to obviously hit 4 targets with a Moonblade. Now, the Moonblade obviously goes through multiple targets. So if there's a bunch of people stacked up, you can definitely hit 4 people. But it's not going to be something you probably do every time. But it's interesting. It's just going to make him more durable. Because I do think people feel like right now he's really bad in terms of duels, because really the only way he can consistently duel is with an Onk. And he doesn't have incredible mobility, so against really fast duelists especially, he kind of struggles. Which is why I really only use him against heavy tank or heavy support lineups. I would never play Moon Knight into a 3 DPS composition. I think that's the worst thing you could do. But yeah. Speed up Moonlight, hook, pull start time after hit from 0.4 to 0.15. So just making his hook more responsive. So if you fire it out, you'll react quicker. I don't have any problem with that. Just making him more responsive is fine to me. Just makes the character feel better. This is going to be the thing that I think potentially for low rank players is going to be horrendous, potentially, depending on a couple things. So first off, the abilities duration is extended from 3.5 to 4.5, which is going to make it just better at zoning. Increased number of talons generated from 14 to 18, so there's just going to be more damage that can come out of it. And this is the part that potentially is going to annihilate low ranks. The fall speed of the talents has been slightly enhanced. Now, this depends on how much it is. If we're talking what it was when Moon Knight was one of a meta DPS, this is going to be insane. This will be insane. This will be the strongest Moon Knight has ever been. And I think he will be one of the best DPS in the game easily. But if it's only slightly, if it's somewhere in between what it is this patch and what it was then, I think it'll be fine. A new damage fall-off mechanic for this spell field has been added, beginning at 1.5 meters from the center and reaching a maximum reduction of 70% at 5 meters. So I'm assuming this means it's going to lose 30% of its damage at 5 meters and out. So this is going to obviously punish people that just try to throw it on like one person or like there's a bunch of people, but they're not really centered. So it'll make it a little easier if you're not in the inner circle to get out of it, because I do think like in the past some of the issues have been even if you're not in the center you just explode immediately, so it's like impossible to dodge. I hope it's a case where his voice line goes and then the ult comes out, and I hope it's not like the ult is fast enough that his voice line doesn't even start. Like it was so bad before, like there was no warning essentially because his voice line like the ult would come up before that. That's how fast it would land. The other thing is like this ultimate, like especially like part of the reason I don't love it being buffed. I'm completely fine with all these changes. The reason I don't like his ultimate being buffed is because this ult is extremely strong when comboed, extremely powerful. If you have a Groot or a Strange hit multiple people with their ult and then you drop this ult on them, they all die. It is like a guarantee they all die. Support ults are not going to save them. It does too much damage. And because support ults obviously don't stack the healing, like you can't pop 2 support ults to try and survive because the healing just doesn't stack. I think for good reason, because that would be completely broken if they did. But, like, this ult slaughters shit. So, for me, it's like, I've always kind of had the feeling with this ultimate that I kind of want to do less damage but come out faster. That's kind of the general idea that I had for his ultimate, is that it would be an ult that it comes out faster but does less damage. So it's a case where, if you use a support ult and like another ability or something, you can maybe survive it. Because I think right now an issue I could potentially see happening is it's like, are we gonna have a situation where Groot and Moon Knight, like that combo just becomes like unbeatable because it's just an auto wipe every time you land it, and everyone that's in that Groot ult, if you hit multiple people, is just dead. I don't know. I'm a little worried about this. This is going to be, especially at lower ranks, might be really bad. Scarlet Witch. Remove chaos control percentage damage while increasing fixed damage from 60 to 80 per second. So obviously she's losing her anchor, so the 10% damage is going to be removed, but they're increasing her damage per second. Her projectile damage is also going up from 35 to 40. Increasing the cooldown of Mystic Projection from 8 to 10 seconds, and the phase state time is going to be shorter, so she's not going to be able to get out as easily. It's not going to last as long, but they're obviously buffing damage, and they're also buffing her ultimate, so her ult essentially rework the slow effect to start at 1.5 seconds instead of starting immediately. Yeah, so she's going to be able to move at full speed for the first 1.5 seconds of her ult, which is going to allow her to get into position better. And then obviously that's going to increase to what it normally would be, which is 35%, by the time she blows up at 3.5 seconds. So, I still feel like the problem with her ult is she can get CC'd out of it. That's like the biggest issue, is like if you just hit her with any CC, she dies. But yeah. Star-Lord, reducing Peter's damage output 80 to 75. So this is his E ability. So they're essentially introducing a mechanic where it starts to fall off damage-wise at 4 meters, and it's basically 20% damage reduction at 8 meters. And obviously once you get past 8 meters, it does no damage. But this is sort of looking to sort of tone down how fast he builds his ult, because right now when you use E, you build ult so fast, it's insane. I think this is a good change, but I think Star-Lord's still going to be really strong, but I think it's a fair change. I think his ult just generates too quickly at the moment, and it's just a little too consistent. So I think this is pretty justified. I remember in the last patch, I thought they were nerfing his ult rate, but they were actually just buffing the boosters on his jetpack. Yeah, that was. I was excited, and then I realized what it actually was, and I was kind of sad, but yeah. Thank God, this is probably my favorite change of the entire patch. Increasing the cooldown for Bionic Hook from 8 to 12 seconds on Bucky. That hook is complete fucking bullshit, especially as a tank player. The fact that he could grab 2 tanks with his hook was just cancer. Um, like, so stupid. Um, yeah, just a stupid ability. Um, I'm not gonna sit and say like they should remove it from the game or anything. I just think it's something that it was just available too often. You didn't have to be that good. You could just throw it out constantly because of how often you could get it. But yeah, based on the base damage of his ultimate ability from 100 to 80, and lowering the culling threshold from 20 to 15%. So basically, the culling threshold is where if you hit a target, it automatically will die regardless of how much damage it takes. So they're reducing that. So it's going to make it a little harder to get resets. And the base damage also getting lowered is a good thing. I think his ult right now is just a little too consistent. It's so good when comboed as well. And it's just one of these ults that you could just take over a whole team fight with it. Even if the other team generally plays it right, like it doesn't really feed you anything initially. If you just get one pick, or if you kill a Loki clone or something, you just get destroyed. Yeah, it's something where it's like it's one of these ultimates that unless you have a support ult, and support ults. The thing is, sometimes this can kill through support ults as well. Like especially if you combo into one, like because of the burst damage from multiple things. Like I've seen, you know, like a combo with like Groot and Winter Soldier, be able to punch through support ults and stuff and kill people. And then obviously if he gets even one kill, he resets and can continue to reset indefinitely. So I think that's very fair. I don't think this kills Bucky at all. I think he'll still be good, but well, I don't know. Actually, they got rid of infinite ammo as well. I don't think he'll be bad though. I think he'll still be solid. I just don't think he's going to be like this character that is like you should pick every game because that's how good he is currently. I don't think there's any reason to not play him every match. That's how good he is. All right, Wolverine. Increased rage gain from Savage Claw hits from 7 to 10, while rage gain from Berserk Claw Strike has been decreased. Reduced rage gained from Feral Leap to 20 to 10, and from Vicious Rampage for 20 to 15. Rage gained from taking damage has been increased from 3 to 5. So Savage Claw is his regular strikes, and obviously he gets more from damage, but a lot of rage nerfs. So basically they nerfed his Leap, his Vicious Rampage, which I believe is his E, and his Berserk Claw Strike is his strikes after he does his Leap, his really fast hits. So they're basically reducing the rage he generates from that sort of playstyle where people will initiate with an E, they'll dash in with an E and hit a target, they'll grab them with the Leap, and then they'll pull them back to their team and then start smashing them with the Berserk Claw Strike. And because they generate rage so fast, they were generating rage so quickly with these abilities, they would hit 100 rage very quickly and then just absolutely shred a poor tank, and the tank would just evaporate. So yeah, I think this is very fair. So it's going to make him different. It's going to make Wolverine more of a brawler versus a guy who comes in and kidnaps somebody on your team. So it's going to make him better in terms of like just if you want to push in and sort of tussle. Now it's going to make him, I think, tougher to play because you're going to have to sort of judge that. Going in and out, but he obviously still has his passive, so that'll help. But I think it's going to make Wolverine probably a little weaker. I think he'll still be good as a tank killer. That is still his job. But I don't think it's going to make him like so oppressive anymore. That I don't think he's going to be like hard banned all the time, which I think is going to be good. I actually like the character. I just think his playstyle is a little too monotonous at the moment. I think he is fun. And he's satisfying to play. It's just like he's if you play tank against him, it's misery, and I think this will help make it feel a little more fair and feel like there's more of a back and forth versus him basically being just absurd and dominating. I think his claw or his leap will still be really good with Rocket's jump packs. That's still going to be an insane combo, but and maybe Wolverine shouldn't be able to do that with the Feral Leap on top of the jump pack. That's probably a little too ridiculous, but whatever. I don't think that's something that a lot of people do at lower levels, so I don't think it's the end of the world, but whatever. I think these are good changes. These are two characters that really needed to be changed because trying to play against them, especially as a tank, was complete and utter misery. Getting hooked and pulled into them. I mean, even trying to play like Magneto into them was still misery because it's like, okay, one of them would hook you, you use your bubble, and then once your bubble wears off, the other one would grab you, and then it's like, oh my god, what am I supposed to do? I use my shield and my bubble, and I still get obliterated. Like, you know, good luck trying to play any other tank other than like Mag and Thing into these two. You literally can't play anybody else. It's like misery. So, yeah, good changes. Very, very warranted. Adam Warlock. This has been the change that people have been, I think from what I've seen on Reddit, people are the angriest about. People have been memeing and mocking these changes to Adam. Like, a lot of people think he's fine currently, and I agree to some extent. Like, I think balance-wise he is fine. I will say I don't necessarily like his current play style. I think especially because he encourages, like, a specific play style that I think is not very fun. I think it's just kind of anti-fun, and that's sort of the res meta, where you play, like, you know, obviously Adam, you play, like, Mantis, you play Star-Lord, and I think you play with him, like, you play a triple support, you play, like, Loki, and then you copy Adam ult if you are in a position where you could use it a second, you see an opportunity to use it a second time. It's really annoying to play against that shit. I don't really like it. I don't think it's inherently, like, super OP and you can't beat it, but it's just, like, an irritating playstyle that is kind of anti-fun. And it's not even like I dislike these characters, because I actually enjoy playing Adam and Mantis a lot. I just think that style of play is kind of weird. So they're increasing the cooldown for Soul Bond. I don't know if they needed to increase it by 10 seconds. I think 5 would have been sufficient. 40 is really long. You're not basically never going to get this twice in a fight now. Whereas maybe before in a longer fight, you could sneak in a second Soul Bond at near the end of a fight to maybe turn the tide. This is probably a slight over nerf, but I don't think it's like the end of the world. Karmic Revival. Now this is interesting. So it now restores 30% of a fallen ally's max health instead of just what it was before, which was 100 health. So this is going to be worse on squishies. But it's going to be better on tanks. So I actually think this is, and I know people were saying this is a nerf. I actually think this is a buff, and the reason I say this is because I don't think this is such a drastic amount difference. Like, if you have a 250 health character, right, you're going to respawn with like 80, 83 health or something. So you're going to respawn with like 15 less HP, basically. That's not such a drastic difference that it's going to make a huge difference in terms of like how quickly you can heal them back up. But being able to respawn at 30% health as a tank is significant, especially when you have like Groot who has 850 health. Being able to respawn at like 250 to 300 health is going to be a godsend. That's like hundreds of health different. That's significant. I think this is actually a buff. And to be honest, I don't really think his ult needed to be buffed. I think it was pretty good as is. I don't think it needed a buff. And if I'm going to be completely honest, if they were going to buff his ult, there was one other thing I would have liked to see changed with him. And what I would have liked to see is, I would have liked to see his res when either, and this, I think this probably applies to the team up. The team up should just be changed in general. I'm fine with the idea of them resing, right? I think that's okay. And it's on like a 90-second cooldown. But what I don't like is when they res their full health. I kind of like how with Adam's ultimate, when they resurrect, they're very low health. So if you push onto their ult, you can just slaughter them multiple times and then stagger them really hard. So it punishes them for using it badly. What they should do is make it 30%, but with the team up. So like, let's say Mantis dies and goes to res herself. Well, she should start out at 30% health, or Star-Lord reses himself. He should start at 30% of his HP. So what that will do is that'll prevent these players who like res, like you kill them in a duel and then they res immediately and fight you again at full health, or a case where it's like I've seen people res on cart to stall, and it's like they're like full health because they resed on cart. It's like, okay, if they were 30% health, you could just kill them immediately. It would force like Mantis and Adam to use abilities on themselves when they res immediately, so it'd be a little bit of a tax for using your res. It shouldn't be something that you could just rely on to bail yourself out in bad situations. It should be something that you're using to sort of gain tempo, or using it because like you should have to actually go to a safe spot to res, not just res like straight out in the open, because that's just bullshit in my opinion. It's like you kill somebody and they res and they're back like 2.5 seconds later. They should have to like move out of the way for a couple, gives you a couple seconds of time to push up on their team. They should have to go hide somewhere and then res and then come back, not like just res in front of the enemy team while you're also there, like in the middle of the fight. Like, it's just weird. That's just weird to me. People never liked Mercy res in Overwatch when it was like a full, res, like full health, because you just res your whole team in the enemy team and they'd be full health and you're not, because you just fought them and you just used a bunch of ults. It just feels weird. I don't necessarily love the way the Adam Warlock team up is, and I'm a little worried about the triple support with that being potentially stronger, because we're going to get to some more changes later, but yeah. Cloak and Dagger, they're basically making it so her ultimate, the 3 healing zones, don't disappear until the last zone does. So basically the whole ult is going to stay together, which is just going to extend the time of her ultimate, make it like the longest lasting support ult. So that's actually a significant buff to Cloak and Dagger. I think they were honestly probably okay, but I don't mind this in terms of consistency. I wouldn't give her anything else though. I don't think she's that bad currently. I wouldn't give her anything else outside of this, but I think this makes her a little more attractive as a pick. I think that makes her ult definitely a little more attractive. I think once they removed the stacking of her ultimate, that really hurt her quite a bit, because she probably had the best support ult in the game prior to that big nerf. But yeah, I think this is fine, relatively speaking. It's okay. Don't have any problem with it. Decreased shield value of Guardian Shield from 300 to 250. I think this is fine. People don't use... I mean, I don't know. It'll be nice, especially for DPS players that are especially players that get content to just sort of stand behind the shield and ignore somebody flanking them or whatever. I don't really mind this change. I think if I was going to nerf Sue... I mean, if I had to think about what I would change with her objectively, I think one thing about Sue that's really, really strong is that when you do the double jump and go invisible, you self-heal during that. I don't know if she necessarily needs to get self-healing from that. I mean, it's really good, because I find that I can stay alive very consistently. I don't know if that's something where it's like I'd prefer if she just had to go get a health pack or something. I don't know. If you were gonna nerf her, I don't think Invisible Woman is like in a state where she's like overpowered at the moment, but she's pretty good. She's probably like the 3rd best support in the game. She's like high A tier. I think she's very good. She's like probably borderline OP. I don't think this nerf does a whole lot to her, but it's fine. I don't really have an issue with it. Whatever. Loki, they made his regeneration domain, which is his lamp, 25 to 30 seconds. I think that's very justified. It's such a strong ability. I think a lot of people were like confused why Adam got his increased by 10 seconds, but Loki only got 5. I think it would have been probably more fair to have Soulbond be 35 seconds and then this be 30. I think very justified. Loki's still going to be strong. Still has a very good kit overall. Really nice ultimate as well. Still going to be one of the best supports, but I don't think he's going to be like far and away the best support in the game now, because I feel like currently he probably is the best support. Now it's like, okay, he might be 2nd or 3rd or something. Like I don't think he's going to be like clearly the best support, which I think is good. I think this makes him more killable too, which is nice. Trying to kill him sometimes is just a fucking nightmare to do. This is interesting. So I know a lot of people immediately read this and go, what are they doing? Why are they nerfing Mantis's health? because a lot of people don't feel like Mantis is like incredible at the moment. I think Mantis is pretty solid. She's definitely, I think she's good. She's just not like broken, you know. I think people need to kind of change how they look at things, because I constantly see this where if like something isn't like high S tier, people constantly are like, "Oh, that's shit." You know, "Oh, that character's shit." It's like, I mean, being like low A tier doesn't mean you're shit. I mean, I wouldn't say that makes you shit. Mantis is still a good character. She's just not as like strong as some of the other supports, because that supports are very strong in general. So like, did they need to reduce her base health? Probably not, but like when I read what they gave her here, I think this is actually kind of justified. Um, so essentially, what they have done is the effects of Healing Flower and Allied Inspiration. So this is her healing and her damage boost. They can now be stacked. So what would happen before is you would put healing on a target. It would last for I think 8 seconds, and then it would wear off. And what would happen is if you put a second healing leaf on the target, you get like a little. I think you get like 40 health for putting the leaf on them. And then what it would do is, if it was already had been put on the person, it would just reset the 8 second timer. So now what you can do is you can put 2 healing leaves on somebody, and it'll keep healing them for 16 seconds, which is really nice. You don't have to worry about them for quite some time. So if there's a target on that's on a flank or something, they'll be getting pocketed for quite a while. And you can double stack a damage boost as well, so that will last for quite a while. So that gives her, and it just makes her more efficient, so she's not wasting leaves constantly. It makes it so she's getting much more value, and I think this will actually kind of buff her healing numbers a little bit. So I think because she's actually, in a way, I think this is actually a net buff to Mantis. I know a lot of people are trying to say, "Oh, this is such a huge nerf." I don't think it's that crazy of a nerf. Keep in mind, she also has CC. She has pretty good damage output. I think she can defend herself pretty decently against most attackers, especially if you have the aim to actually punish them. I think this makes Mantis better, and with Adam, I think Adam alt being buffed, and Mantis, I think, being slightly buffed, it's like, are we going towards that triple support with Mantis, Adam, and then, you know, I don't know who the third character would necessarily be in terms of... Actually, I think I do know. We're going to get to the third character that I think might be the third character in that composition. But in this meta, when you play those two, I think typically the third character is like Invisible Woman, Loki. I have seen Luna, but... and it's interesting, Luna did not get changed. Groot is also another character who did not get changed in this patch, even though Groot, I think, is extremely strong. If we're talking about like really high-end DPS, I think all the really, really strong DPS generally got touched. I guess Storm didn't get changed, really, other than, I guess she lost the team up with Thor, but other than that, she didn't really get changed. So I think she'll still be pretty good. But yeah, we're going to get to what I think potentially could, like, there's some stuff I'm scared of, right? There's probably... If I had to pick, like, okay, so what am I afraid of in terms of each role? Like, what changes do I think are the least necessary, and what am I afraid of in terms of balance, right? I guess I would be a little afraid of Penny at really low levels being really strong, but I think for most people, I'm not really afraid of any of these tank changes to the point where I'm like, oh my god, this is going to ruin the game. I'm a little worried about Moon Knight. Scarlet Witch could potentially be pretty good, but I still think her ult's not going to be insane. It might be better, but I think Moon Knight is probably the biggest red flag, but Iron Man, I think, is a red flag as well. But, like, these rocket changes, this is a character that should not have been touched at all. I could understand some of this. I can understand Moon Knight being touched. He has one of the lowest win rates at the moment. I could understand some of these other characters being touched just because of, I don't know, pick rates not being good, whatever. Rocket has a good pick rate, has a consistently good win rate at every tier of play. He's good at every tier. He's good at low rank. He's even good in high rank. We even see him in competitive play sometimes. That's, you know, I think pro play, we don't see him nearly as much as we do on ladder, but we see him a lot. And this is just, we'll go into it. So decrease the healing area of repair mode's spheres from 70 health per second to 50. Now you're gonna say, oh, that's a nerf, and yes, it is. But and this is a big but, added a new effect of a one-time healing of 55 health to allies' hits. Now, from what and I could be misinterpreting this, but this seems like, so whenever he reloads, his first shot he fires from his reloaded weapon is going to instantly heal for 55 health. So this will heal every person it hits, including himself. Keep in mind, he can self-heal too. So he can shoot this, heal himself instantly for 50, and then keep healing himself for 50 a second. I think this is going to make his healing spike like fucking crazy. And honestly, what you might want to do is if there's like any downtime at all, even for like a second or two, like reload real quick so you can get more burst healing. You could say, oh, it adds a little bit of skill, but it's like a lot of people just hold right click until they're empty and then reload, and they're still gonna get this burst healing from this. I don't think it was necessary, to be honest. Projectile speed reduction increased from 4.5 to 7. So what this means is when the orb is near a target, it's actually going to speed up. So it will fly away a little faster from a target. But if you think about how Rocket is, you just keep spamming orbs towards targets, right? It's not like, oh my god, the orb went away, there's not going to be another orb to heal, right? You just keep spamming targets. I originally thought this meant that it was going to be like, oh, the speed of the projectile he shoots when he's healing is faster, which would mean that it would be worse for targets at close range, but like better for long range targets. But that's actually not how it works, which is interesting. So it's like, this is a really weird change. I don't think people were really complaining about how his healing worked at the moment, but whatever. Extend the cooldown for jetpack from 6 seconds to 10 seconds. Reduce dash distance from 10 to 8. So this is the only like actual nerf he's gonna get. He's gonna have a little less mobility in terms of jetpack. Now the thing with this is this might not even be that bad, because if he can pocket himself and stay alive, less movement isn't going to hurt him that bad. This is like a case where, oddly enough, I'd prefer if he was like really, really hard to hit, but like couldn't self-heal. I think that's more interesting, because then it's like, okay, people have to help each other, right? Versus like people, being able to like Rocket being able to just self-sustain. I think that's like really annoying, especially to try and kill. Is like he's just healing himself and running away. It's like, dude. I mean, Jeff is obnoxious for the same reason, as because he could heal him. He heals while he's underground, and he's like harder to hit. So it's like he could just get away in situations where he probably shouldn't be able to. So maybe this will actually affect him. I think because of this, like, I still think he's going to be comparatively hard to kill, on top of the fact I think he's just going to be flat out better at healing. And for like I've seen people say he's not particularly good at healing at the moment, but I don't really agree. And if we look at, I think it's Marvel Rivals Tracker.com here, and we look at hero stats and we go to healing output, I mean, he's third right now on average. And this obviously takes into account all ranks in the ranked mode, but he's third, and they're buffing his healing output, and he's already, doing pretty well in terms of how much healing he puts out. So now this potentially, this is like absurd. This is like, I think, the most wild change in the entire patch. So they reduced the damage boost from 40 to 25, but they gave it a new effect. During the ability's duration, linked allies, so that means anyone who's getting touched by the ult, and you can see the beams coming out of the ultimate, will receive an additional 100 bonus health points per second, capping at 150. So I initially, when I read this, thought, oh, okay, so it gives people like 150 bonus health for one time. So if you threw it and everyone on your team got hit by it, okay, you're giving like 900 total bonus health. I thought it would be a one-time thing, but it would be like, okay, you could give your teammates like a little bit of burst health in a bad situation, right? And that's why I thought, okay, they nerfed the damage boost. But no, this is basically a defensive ultimate. 100 bonus health per second, and you cap it 100. Now, if you do get out of the ultimate, it starts to fall off at 1 second. So you have health per second. So you'll lose all your bonus health after 2 seconds. But that's only if you walk out of the ultimate. So this is essentially, imagine if Luna Snow could put damage and healing on at the same time. Now, of course, Luna's damage boost I think is still 40%, and her healing I think is 150. And it's in a radius, of course. And it also, I think, does last a little longer. I think Rocket Alt lasts for, I believe, 10 seconds. Luna's lasts for 12. And rockets can be destroyed. But you have to keep in mind that, like, the Luna player has to switch back and forth to use that, right? So there is, like, small windows where it's like, oh, if she's on damage, you might be able to burst somebody. Or, you know, if she's on health, well, she's, you know, yeah, she's healing her team, but they're not doing more damage. So if you can sort of just survive during that period, you'll be fine, right? And then you can use your ultimates to kill them. This is a case where it's going to do damage and healing at the same time. I don't know if I really like that. That sounds like really, like, it shouldn't, like, and I don't think Luna ult is balanced or fair anyway. I've seen people constantly say either take damage off of her ultimate if it's going to last as long as it is, or make it, I've seen people say, like, make it so it's 6 seconds of healing, 6 seconds of damage, or make it, for me, I don't think you have to go to any of those extents. I would just reduce the duration by, like, 2 seconds, so, especially in the case of if Loki copies it, it would cut it down from 24 seconds of Luna ult to, like, 20, which is still a long time, but at least it's a little less painful than it currently is. But, and yeah, they increase the energy cost, but this is still less than basically all the other supports. I think basically every other support has a higher cost. So he builds ult the fastest, and he's going to have an ult that does both damage boost and bonus health per second. On top of the fact that it's going to build the fastest. This has potential to be the strongest support ult in the game. Like, this could be ridiculous, potentially. I think the only reason I'm not going to say that it's better than Luna ult is, one, I think the duration is going to be slightly shorter. It'll be 10 seconds. But two, you can also destroy it. Now, it's quite tanky, and I think generally it takes probably about 5 seconds of the team shooting it to kill it. That, I'm hoping that this won't be as good as I think it's going to be, but like, if you give him a crazy strong ult on top of the fact that he might be better at healing, there's potential that he becomes even, like, the best or, like, the second best healer. Like, there's potential here that I think he'll probably pass Cloak and Dagger in healing per minute. He may even get up to Luna numbers. There's potential that Rocket might end up being, like, either the strongest or second strongest healer in the game. And I don't really want that on a character that's not really mechanically demanding in any sort of way. He's basically the equivalent of Mercy, and he's not even as interesting as Mercy, because Mercy at least had mechanics with, like, the way her flight would work and stuff. There was some mobility. This character does not really have that much depth. Yeah, he can climb on objects. Yeah, he can do a jetpack dash, but this character is very simplistic, probably the most simplistic character in the entire game. I do not want this character to be, like, the best. I think he was already good as is. I thought he was already, like, a A-tier, low A-tier character. I don't know if they did this team up, or not this team up, if they did this because the fact that they took Bucky out of infinite ammo, and so now it's only him and Punisher, and they think Punisher's not that good, so they think, oh, no one's going to play Rocket anymore because we removed Bucky from infinite ammo. But they kind of failed to realize that Bucky wasn't the only reason people were playing Rocket, and that Rocket actually did fit into certain compositions pretty decently because of his res and some other things. This is, like, potentially a nightmare. This character might be if I have to pick, if I was going to predict, like, who do I think is going to be the most banned character in the next season, it's going to be Rocket. I think Hulk will probably be number 2, but I think people are not going to want to play against this shit at all. If you can't kill this guy and they're playing 3 support, like, like I was thinking about, like, what if they play, like, Rocket Like, I was thinking, like, what about Adam Rocket Loki or something? That would be obnoxious because, especially if, depending on how good Loki's alt is, like, or sorry, Rocket's alt is it going to be good enough that it'd be worth Loki copying? Maybe. It could be, potentially. Or if you play, like, I was seeing Mantis, Rocket, Adam, like, some other stuff. Like, and the thing is, you can still play Star-Lord as well because you have Adam, and Star-Lord is still going to be, I think, good, especially with Adam because they didn't change that team up. So I'm real nervous about this one. All right, team up abilities. Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch. I think this might be the one thing that keeps Strange relevant, potentially, because I feel like if he didn't get this team up, I think he might actually fall out of the meta because they took Gamma away from him and they reduced his damage output. And with other characters being buffed, I feel like Strange could have had the potential to fall down. But he's obviously going to get health from the team up, and I've seen some gameplay of this team up. It's going to allow Scarlet to essentially do hit scanning damage on top of the fact that she's going to still be able to use her her left click beam while also firing her her ability. It's going to essentially be very similar to, like, think of how Punisher sort of works, but sort of like a cone of damage, but it's like hit scan. I think this will allow Scarlet to actually do pretty good damage output and actually kill people consistently. I know people feel like her biggest problem is like she just can't deal with the burst healing in this game. I think this might actually be a pretty good team up. I don't know if it's going to be so strong where we see these characters banned, but I think it might be a team up where, you know, I don't know if it's going to be, I don't know if it'll be meta necessarily, but I think it'll be a good team up that we might see depending on the situation and depending on the bans and depending on whatever. Stars aligned. Now this, for me, is probably the most underwhelming team up I saw. I think the only good thing about this is, like, okay, it's going to give Captain America some extra health and damage. But both these guys do get it, but it's a case where, like, it doesn't seem that great. Now, what it basically is Cap and Bucky can, and this is like, I think it's on a 15-second cooldown, they're able to basically both agree with, like, if they both hit a button prompt on each other while looking at each other, they'll come together and basically smash into each other. And it sounds cool. It is. It's a cool idea. The problem with it is, okay, so it'll stun a target for, I think, a second if the target's really close to the basically them smashing into each other, but all it does is CC, and it does basically very little damage. So it's like, and the problem with it is it's going to be hard to set up. Like, it's going to be something where you're going to have to be, the enemy that you're trying to hit with it is going to have to be in between the two of you to set it up. So it's not going to be something you're going to be able to constantly use. You know, do I think it's, like, completely and utterly worthless? No, but I think it's going to be probably one of the lower tier team ups. There's some team ups that aren't that great. It'll probably be down in that lower grouping. Will there be situations where maybe it could be slightly useful? Sure. I think actually the bigger part of this is that Cap is getting the damage boost and the extra health. I think that's actually the bigger part of the team up, is that Cap is getting buffed. So maybe we could actually see a world where these two would even be played together, because right now you never see these two played together ever. So I don't know. Maybe it's possible. I'm not really sure. We'll see. This is going to be a crazy team up. This will probably be the, I think, the second strongest team up in this patch, outside of Gamma. So Magneto and Psylocke are going to be the recipients of Emma Frost's team up, and she's going to obviously get 100 health from this, which means I think Emma Frost's base health is 550. She's up to 650 with the 100 health, so she's a very squishy tank, relatively speaking. She's, like, very similar to, like, Thor, for example, who's 525 health prior to, obviously, these changes. So basically how this ability works is it basically gives both of these characters it's a 30-second cooldown ability that they create basically a projection of themselves. So there's going to be basically two of them. And what it does is it acts sort of like a Loki clone, but for Magneto and Psylocke. So it will basically use It'll use basically all the abilities the player uses, and it will attack as well. And it will even auto attack in some situations, like a Loki clone would. The only thing it won't do is it will not double up your ultimates, which would be absurd. Imagine two Psylocke ults at the same time. That would just blow everybody up. But it looks really, really good, and especially because Emma Frost looks quite good damage-wise, and she looks like, she's quite capable in terms of being able to deal CC and being immune to CC. This is, like, potentially a hard meta thing, like, where I could see Magneto and Emma Frost being, like, in a 2-2-2 being, like, the meta tanks, because they both have shields, they both are able to do quite decent damage, especially with the team-up, and I think Psylocke, especially as a character that I still think is good right now, like, as is, she's still probably, like, an A-tier character. Giving her this, she could become one of the strongest DPS. I think she's, like, the high potential to become, like, a top 5 DPS pick. I think, she might be quite good. I'm seeing, like Psylocke, Scarlet Witch, Moon Knight, maybe Iron Man, Namor, and then after that it kind of is, like, some of the older meta characters like Hela, Bucky, Wolverine, whatever. But yeah. So, obviously they removed Bucky from the infinite ammo. Thank God, that was completely broken. Having to play tank against Winter Soldier and Wolverine, and you're playing against you're playing against the Thing, so he doesn't get CC'd. He can throw Wolverine around the map. If they have jump packs, that's insane. Winter Soldier with infinite ammo, as well as Hook on an 8-second cooldown, could immediately slaughter every shield in front of you. It would blow up Groot walls instantly. It was just absurd to play against. It felt so terrible. Oh my god. It was complete misery. So thank God I don't have to fucking deal with that anymore. Thank God. They removed Namor from this team up, so now it's just Luna and Jeff. But Namor, I don't know if they get into the... Oh, yeah, they do get into this. But Namor got moved over to Gamma, which I think Namor might actually be stronger with Gamma than he was in this team up, which is crazy to say. Because Namor was very strong with this team up. He was, like, high A tier, low S tier. But, yeah. They opted to move Psylocke out of this, the dimensional shortcuts. Now it's just going to be Magik and Black Panther. I think that's fine. Nobody was ever playing these three characters together. It was very rare to see all three of them in a group just because it's 3 DPS characters. And having a team up where you kind of have to play a comp like that is kind of... feels weird. So we'll see. I'm assuming none of these characters are going to have their damage boost from the seasonal boost changed, despite having characters removed, but I guess we'll see. I would assume they'd list that if that was happening, but yeah. So now, obviously they move Strange out, put Namor in. He gets Gamma Monstro, and now this ability is wild. Essentially, it turns his turrets into green radiation turrets, or his squids, and what they do is they basically will automatically shoot at targets with this green beam. They have, like, I think it's like 40 meters of range, which is a lot, and essentially, if you hit a target with a right click with Namor, it will increase the damage output of these turrets, and these turrets do heavy damage. They do actually, I think, more damage than the turrets previously. Now, some people have been arguing online about if this will be better or not, because, yeah, you have more damage, but the old turret used to slow with the Luna team up, but my argument has kind of been like, well, if Hulk is like solid, right? Like, let's say Hulk is like actually a solid pick, and Iron Man also benefits from this team up. Like, Namor and Iron Man together would be kind of a nightmare to deal with, because it's like Namor is going to be especially strong against dive characters, and like Iron Man can probably just hang out above his team, and any character that could, like any dive character that would even threaten Iron Man, the Namor turrets will deal with. So it's like you're going to have to play hit scan against that shit. Like, it's like you have to stay so far away from these turrets to not get damaged. You would like have to basically play like Hela, or like Punisher or something, and hang out in the back. But this ability is like, these abilities like on Iron Man and Namor are going to be so strong. I think Banner is going to get banned hard because of it. So now the team ups that like they were completely removed. Metallic Chaos, which is the Scarlet Witch and Magneto team up. Sword was kind of fun. It wasn't an amazing team up more because I think Witch just wasn't worth playing generally. It was kind of a fun team up. It was insanely broken and back in beta. I remember how strong the sword was in beta. Oh my god, that was absurd. But I think the biggest reason they broke this up is obviously Magneto got Emma Frost's team up and Witch got Strange's team up. So both of them, I think, will probably end up better off anyway, with their own respective team ups in the end. So I think both these characters are winners, regardless. So yeah, and next up, this is the other team up being removed, and it's kind of unfortunate because this was a team up that I think people were kind of hoping would have taken off, but it never really did. The Captain America Thor Storm composition. I think the biggest problem with this comp is I feel like you almost have to play triple tank with it because I don't think Thor and Cap are a good pairing, in terms of like if that's your only two tanks. You just simply can't demand control enough space, and you don't really contribute enough to your teammates, in terms of like being able to mitigate damage in some sense. Cap can obviously mitigate damage, but more for himself, not for other people. Whereas some of the other tanks can mitigate damage for other players and on top of them for themselves. Like Storm, I don't think benefited that heavily from this team up, so I don't think this hurts her that much. In reality, the character like Cap, okay, yeah, Cap got like maybe in a way Cap would have been better to he'd rather have this team up. What would have been kind of interesting is if they changed it so that Cap was the anchor and Thor received the team up, because to me I feel like Thor is the big loser here because now he doesn't have the team up at all, and he doesn't have the bonus health, so he's just kind of in no man's land, and the only other team up he gets is the Hela Loki Thor team up. And not that team up is bad, but that team up is reliant upon your Hela player actually being competent. So at least at a lot of like at normal ranks, Hela players can be pretty inconsistent. They can be really good, but they can be really shit. So yeah, I feel like Thor is kind of a big loser in this sense. I would have liked to see, again, like I said, a team up where Thor gets Cap's ability. Cap obviously gets the bonus from the team up. Thor gets a buff, which makes him a little better. I don't think Storm was like too strong with this. I don't think removing this kills Storm by any stretch. She's still good, but I don't think this was like overpowered or anything that Storm would get this team up. I think it was fine in terms of balance. I just think it's kind of unfortunate because I think Thor is going to be the one that ultimately dies out of these three. I think if anything, and I'm not joking, I would have preferred if they removed Gamma from the game. I'm not kidding. I think if I had to choose a team up, especially seeing as how Gamma is going to be now, like they kind of to me fixed infinite ammo by removing Bucky from it. Like I think that makes it fine. I don't think Namor was like so oppressive. But like I'd be okay if Namor didn't have a team up, but it's like I didn't think Namor with the previous thing was so oppressive that it was like really bad. On top of the fact that they already moved Strange over, like for me, I would have kind of preferred they got rid of Gamma simply because I just feel bad that Hulk is probably going to get hard banned. I would have said either remove Gamma or I think you remove the Star-Lord Mantis Atom team up so they can't like res. I think if you're not going to nerf that, I would have preferred just to get rid of the res team up. I don't personally like it. And it's not like something where you have to actually like do something like the Hela team up where you have to actually kill people to get reses. So it's kind of weird, but it's one of those things where like I think I would have preferred that they kind of reworked this one, and I think this team up probably had to go, but I think Gamma and probably the res composition I would have been fine with being removed. But yeah, I think the big problem would have been if you could play Scarlet Witch and then you play Magneto, Strange, Emma Frost. That would have been insane. Yeah, you just play Scarlet as your only DPS, and then you play triple tank with Mag, Strange, and Emma. So you have triple shield with Scarlet Witch, and then like imagine how insane they would be like in terms of um, not Psylocke. I mean, Scarlet would benefit from double team ups, and then you could play like two meta supports. It would just be misery to play against. But yeah, it is what it is. That's gonna be pretty much my notes. I talked for an hour and a half. I rambled forever. I'm gonna be doing a video probably here in the next few days about my little EOMM experiment I did on a separate account where I played 50 games of quick play, and we'll be breaking down all the data regarding that, sort of my findings and stuff. But that should be just about it. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate it, and I will see you on the next one. Adios, muchachos.